Investment guru and Rich Dad, Poor Dad author Robert Kiyosaki recently brought on financial expert Jim Rickards to his YouTube channel to discuss the financial A-bomb Joe Biden had dropped on the American people. Kiyosaki is a big admirer of Rickards for his far-sighted insights on the financial issues, like the introduction of a central bank digital currency and the March Executive Order 14067 issued by President Biden. Rickards is especially well-placed to see what's coming down the pipeline, as someone who has worked on Wall Street and Pennsylvania Avenue for 4 decades as an economist, investment banker, and former CIA insider. The Biden administration has issued Executive Order 14067. But what exactly does it entail?
Well, executive orders, or for that matter, legislation, I could say you have to read the fine print, and you do, but you have to actually consider the hidden agendas. Like, well, I can read it. Anyone can read it. It's a public document, but what's behind it and where are they going with it? And that's really where the urgency comes in. And it's basically an order that accelerates the U.S. movement towards a central bank digital currency, so-called CBDC. These are happening all over the world. Beijing already has one. They're past the prototype stage. They kind of rolled that out during the Winter Olympics, last February. Believe it or not, the Bahamas has a digital currency. There are a few other countries that have already gone in that direction. Europe is the European Central Bank is very far along. The U.S. and the Federal Reserve, because they print the currency, they understood the importance of it. They were watching it, but they were kind of taking their time, like, hey, we're the biggest payment currency, biggest reserve currency in the world, which the dollar is, and we don't want to race into something if it's not thought out. And they were doing a kind of a joint venture R&D program with MIT. Okay, they got some experts there, so that seems to make sense. But all of a sudden, they accelerated it, and they said, no, we got to move fast on this, and we got to catch up. And that's what 14067 was about.
According to Rickards, it's the end of cash and the beginning of George Orwell's nightmare. As of November 2021, the market capitalization of all digital assets has surpassed $3 trillion, after having grown exponentially over the previous several years. About 40 million individuals worldwide have used, invested in, or exchanged cryptocurrencies, according to estimates. Given the dramatic increase, the United States government has seized the opportunity to take the reins and set the standard for the rest of the world's financial system by finding a way to remain at the forefront of the digital currency evolution while allegedly safeguarding individuals, companies, and the economy. So thus, President Biden's executive order, officially known as Order 14067, ensuring responsible development of digital assets, went into effect. However, as Rickards points out, the executive order's consequences are far from benign.
A couple things. First of all, they know your whereabouts. Now, they already know your whereabouts from your iPhone, unless you turn your iPhone off, and not just turn it off, but put it in what's called a Faraday sac, which is a special woven fabric of a metallic weave that blocks radiation. And by the way, do the same thing with your EasyPass and a bunch of other stuff. But unless you do that, then they know where you are through your iPhone or your Samsung or whatever. So they already know your whereabouts. We have facial recognition software. People go, I'm going to wear a mask and sunglasses and pull my hat down. Okay. They have what's called gait recognition software, GAIT, meaning how you walk. Believe it or not, everybody walks slightly differently. Wow. And it's like a fingerprint. So even if you're wearing a mask, they see you walking down the street, they're like, that's Kim, or that's Robert, or Jim, or as the case may be. So they already know a lot, and they know your whereabouts. But now they're going to know what you're buying, right? Because every product has a SKU, stock keeping code, stock keeping unit code, with a QR scan, digital scan. They're going to know what you're buying, and this digital currency is programmable, meaning they can block certain purchases or not. So let's say you donate money to Elise Stefanik. She's an up-and-coming Republican member of the Republican leadership in upstate district in New York, or heaven help you if you donate money to Donald Trump. Well, they'll know that, first of all, and you might find that your account's frozen.
The secret objective underlying the executive order is what has Rickards worried. The purpose of the directive, he claims, is to hasten the adoption of digital currencies by central bank which Kiyosaki has previously dubbed spyware. This, Rickards said, is why he is raising the alarm about EO14067. As Rickards points out in his interview, once all money is digital, they'll be able to track your purchases with more precision. This digital money is programmable, so they may restrict or allow particular transactions depending on information gleaned from a QR code scan. The main area of concern is that a central bank digital currency will lead to a situation similar to the world in Orwell's 1984, where a big brother would be in charge of money and control decisions people made in their lives, despite the fact that transactions may become cheaper and faster as a result. An integrated tracking system within the dominant digital money seems inevitable at this point. Let's back up a bit and go over what central bank digital currencies are. What exactly is meant by the term CBDC, or central bank digital currency? As per Rickards, CBDCs are the currencies of central banks that you are already familiar with, like euros, yen, and the pound, but they have been converted into totally digital counterparts. They are completely digital currencies, with each transaction being encrypted and recorded on a ledger, which may be kept by a central bank or the Ministry of Finance. It's possible that you're thinking, this sort of sounds like Bitcoin, right? Well, contrary to what you may have been led to believe, CBDCs are not cryptocurrencies. At first glance, they seem like Bitcoin's more sinister relative, but in all honesty, private cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin have nothing to do with CBDCs at all. To begin, they are currencies that are issued by the respective central banks. Mining cryptocurrencies does not result in their creation by anyone. Blockchain technology is not used by them, and there is no question that they do not support the decentralized issuance paradigm that the cryptocurrency community lauds. In a nutshell, CBDCs are the surveillance coin of central banks, and they magnify all of the negative characteristics that are inherent in central bank currencies.
I've always said to people, you put your money in the bank, it's not your money, it's the bank's money, and they'll give it to you if they feel like it. Well, this is that same idea on stilts. And this is like, yeah, and now the government's involved, and it's easier, everything easier, faster, cheaper about payments is also easier, faster, cheaper about surveillance, confiscation, account freezes, etc. And then people say to me, they explain that when I just said to you guys, and they say, oh, that'll never happen. It's already happening. I mean, it's already here.
There are many who are concerned that this kind of digital cash may eventually become programmable money, because with it, the government would be able to program what you are allowed to spend your money on, how much of it you are allowed to spend, and most crucially, what you are not allowed to purchase with your own money that you have worked hard to obtain. Furthermore, as you shall see in a moment, the use of these currencies is fraught with significant risk. CBDCs are currently being introduced by almost all of the major central banks around the world, including research that is now underway right here in the United States of America as a result of Biden's recent directive. In this very moment, CBDCs are being introduced by almost all of the major central banks around the world. Why should this concern you? You're not a criminal. You have nothing to hide. What's the problem with more government oversight, especially if it means more convenience? There's one major reason. CBDCs will have a high degree of centralization and will be strictly regulated by central banks. After C-Day, the United States government and other governments throughout the world will have a greater degree of control over your finances, and therefore, your life. Why? Because the government and banks are becoming more indistinguishable from one another. Do you remember what happened to the Canadian truck drivers who protested the COVID mandates?
Talk to the Freedom Convoy in Canada, what my neo-fascist friend Chrystia Freeland, who's the Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister, did to the Freedom Convoy. Now, okay, they pulled into Ottawa in the middle of winter, and I was just in Ottawa a couple of days ago, by the way. It's a pretty city, but pretty small, actually. They stalled traffic. They blew the horns at 3 a.m. All Trudeau had to do was come out, say, who are your leaders, meet with them, hear their demands, give them a few, not all, They would all go home, and that would be the end of it. He didn't do that. He went into hiding. He's sort of a coward. He's not very smart. But Chrystia Freeland is a tough cookie, to put it in polite terms. She called the banks in Canada. Now, the difference between Canada and the U.S., they only have 5 big banks. We've got like 5,000 or something. But there's, CIBC, Royal Bank of Canada, Bank of Montreal, Nova Scotia, and TD. She called the banks, identified the bank accounts of the truckers, and froze all their accounts. She didn't stop there. She then called the crypto exchanges because, I know what cold wallets are, but a lot of people put their money in crypto exchanges, got their names, froze their crypto accounts, seized their trucks. They couldn't feed their family. They were put in jail, hell without bail, literally couldn't feed their family in the middle of winter, all because of a non-violent protest. I want to emphasize there was no violence. Yeah, annoying. Yeah. So give them a traffic citation for blowing your horn at 3 a.m, $500 fine, appear in court, whatever. I'm not saying there shouldn't have been any accountability, but being held in jail without bail, where all of your money's been frozen, your assets have been seized, they're non-returnable, and you can't feed your family for what, a nonviolent protest? But my point is, and that's an exercise in fascism, of course, but my point is that they did it all through digital banking systems.
The truck drivers found that their individual bank accounts had been blocked or even confiscated. Under the emergency measures implemented by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, the Government of Canada froze up to 206 bank accounts that were associated with convoy organizers. These accounts had a combined value of $7.8 million. And let's not forget that due to the fact that GoFundMe prevented $10 million in contributions from reaching Freedom Convoy in Canada, it is now impossible for truck drivers to collect compensation or donations. Imagine you go to the clinic, only to find out that your credit card will not be accepted because your bank account has been programmed to allow just a particular amount of money to be spent on medical treatment or pharmaceuticals. There's a term that encompasses all of these ideas. The term for this is social credit. Countries such as China have already implemented such a system.
In China, you have a social credit score. So they identify you through the banking system and then turn off your ability to buy a train ticket or a plane ticket.
Wow.
And then it goes on from there. You post something, the worst thing you do in China is compare Chairman Xi to Winnie the Pooh. He kind of looks like Winnie the Pooh. So, it's true. And so if you post a Winnie the Pooh meme or something, good luck getting your kids into school. Good luck getting health care for yourself, et cetera. So my point is, this is already being done.
The Chinese Communist Party monitors its citizens' conduct and rewards or punishes them based on a variety of factors, including their economic choices and even whether or not they're safe drivers. As a kind of punishment, the offender may have to endure anything from slower internet connections to restrictions on their ability to travel or stay in particular hotels. There have also been tales of individuals even having their pets taken away from them by the government for having an insufficient credit score. Imagine having the authority to impose social credit on American citizens if the dollar is completely digitalized and paper money is rendered obsolete as a means of payment. The creation of the perfect money printer would be a completely digital CBDC for the dollar. This has the potential to quickly lead to runaway inflation. CBDCs would provide the essential plumbing for central banks, allowing them to immediately send a digital currency to the bank accounts of people, where it would then be ready to be spent via debit cards. This kind of mechanism has the potential to unleash actual floodgates of money into the consumer sector, which in turn would speed up the pace of inflation. There has been a previous forcible replacement of money in the United States, in the same way that gold was forced to be converted into paper money under threat of paper dollars are going to be converted into a digital currency by the central bank. In his discussion with Kiyosaki, Rickards mentions key steps to take in order to protect your freedom and wealth. To begin with, Rickards advises making an investment in bullion made of precious metals such as gold and silver.
and they're going to put you into a digital dollar, and they're working on that. And Executive Order 14067 puts that on a fast track. And if the digital dollar can be used for all the things I described, which it can, surveillance, account freezes, account seizures, putting a countdown clock on your money, spend
tracking,
it.
Actually create a molding behavior.
Correct.
What they're doing.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. So what are the workarounds? How can you get out of that system? Well, if all this is being empowered by digital technology, which it is, you sort of have to go non-digital. In other words, this is the, lean right, go left, or, vice versa. So what are the digital assets that work as money? Non-digital assets that work as money? What are the non-digital assets that work as stores of wealth, et cetera? Well, there's a bunch of them. You can start with gold and silver, but I would include real estate, natural resources, water, energy, et cetera. And you can even do some of this in the stock market.
Gold has always been a market darling at times of severe economic stress. In 1979, when inflation was at its highest point during the Carter administration, the price of gold rose by 136% in a single year. After the global financial crisis of 2008, the price of gold skyrocketed, reaching as high as 185%. Secondly, Rickards recommends, ensure that you have this alternative currency off the grid, in case the proverbial doo-doo really hits the fan.
So now all of a sudden I go to, if I'm in a rural area, know your local farmer, and you go down there and you want blueberries or tomatoes or corn or fresh bacon or whatever. There'll come a time when they'll take that. They'll say, yeah, okay, I'll take, we agree on a price, but they'll take it in silver coins or gold coins, because they're thinking the same way you are. It's not like you're the only person who's trying to get out from under the digital dictatorship.
You're going to want to have liquid assets to keep your wealth and to conduct business in, so that you may do it off the grid. These goods range from precious metals to diamonds to goods for bartering like ammunition. Rickards refers to Biden bucks as a digital cattle chute in one of his articles. It's equivalent to sending people of the United States to a butcher. The United States government is able to manage practically every aspect of your life if it has access to and control of your financial resources. Don't be just another cud-chewing member of the herd. Take a hard look at what old Farmer Biden and company are cooking up, and make sure you and your family aren't on the menu. I know, whenever topics like government surveillance and financial control are raised, there will be a variety of opinions. What do you think? Is this a storm on the horizon, or just a harmless cloud passing through the sky? Please leave any thoughts in the comments section. They always generate an interesting dialogue. And if you enjoyed this video, please tap the subscribe button for more in-depth updates and analysis on business and finance. Until next time, thanks for watching.